JazzCast Pros.
Welcome to Healthy Illness. I am Kelly Marie. This is a podcast where we learn all about building healthier habits and better relationships while living with a mental health condition. But this episode is going to be incredible. I am sitting down with my brother from JazzCast Pros Network, Fatha Torch, and we are just having a conversation today. So listen in, take some notes, and let me know what you think in the comments.
Yes, folks, this is Rah from Fatha Torch to host and speak on the mental anguish as well as the habits that we promote and advocate for. I'm a huge advocate of fatherhood, and Fatha Torch and the Bimlik Foundation that's all we do. We promote family structure and as well as emotional wellness, intelligence. So, like famous Kelly said.
I love it.
Love it. All right.
It's going to be good.
Famous Kelly, how we doing?
All right. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Right? Is it ever? Nice Sunday. A beautiful, cool Sunday.
Yes. Present and accounted for. You know, today wasn't given to everybody. So
no.
I'm all right.
Yes. And we are above ground right now. So this is a merciful and a blessed evening. So
yeah,
I wanted to make this conversation as spontaneous as possible or organic. And I wanted to speak on habits, whether it be good or bad, but also oftentimes are signs of a lot of things taking place. So as a gentleman, I would give you the floor.
Okay. So for me, I live with 3 diagnosed mental health disorders: major depression, general anxiety, and borderline personality disorder. I've been in therapy off and on since I was 9 years old. I'm a survivor of childhood sexual assault. And so after letting my mom know what was happening, we did all of the things, legally, medically we were supposed to do. And she made sure that I had a counselor. And so I've shared that now because I think having that foundation in counseling at such an early age allowed me to easily go back to it when I got older and needed help. And I think even though the mental health conditions got as bad as they did not get as bad as they could because I had family support, social support. I was used to being in, a therapeutic setting. So it wasn't new to me, especially with a condition like borderline personality disorder. Like, you're not supposed to have healthy relationships. You're not supposed to be able to hold down a job.
The stigmas.
It's just, those signs and symptoms are horrible. Living with suicidal ideation, so a lot of things. And so when it comes to, for me, I had to get to a place once I was healthy to identify what the spiral looks like. Like, I never wanted to be in another psychiatric inpatient situation again.
Yeah.
And so what do I have to do to not be there? Like, whatever that is, I don't care whatever that is. I'll do that so I don't have to end up there.
You don't want to do that again.
I see. This is not, I got to do something different, right? And so I take medication. I'm not going to lie. I don't know if it works or not. But what I do know is I won't be back there. So what I will do is take this medication.
To keep up on it.
It took me, because see, what happens when folks have a mental health condition, when you're sick, you feel like you're in your right mind. Like,
yeah.
It makes sense. So knowing that when I'm sickest, I personally feel good. The world could be falling around me. I was telling you, like, not paying my bills on time, house being in foreclosure, car, they're like, we come in to get your car if you don't pay us. That felt normal and natural. And so when I got healthy, I had to identify the things in my life that were like amiss, that just wasn't right, so that I could use those as signs to know when I was headed down the wrong path and I needed to self-correct. So bills for me became one of those things. Like, I'm not good with math. I'm generally not good with paying my bills. So because
that's everybody's fault.
Yeah, it's like, oh, right. I didn't pay that already? I swear I just paid you.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's been a month. I'm like, I don't think it's been a month. And I go and look. Like, oh, it has been a month. So because that is not, and some people are gifted, right? Like, that's just what they do. They love it, the order and the structure. And I'm not that. I'm like a kite floating around. I need to be tied to a rock so I don't go too far off.
What do they call that? What do they call it? A kite flying in the hurricane? This
That would be me. Like, if just allowed to fly, I'd find the hurricane. Like, I would find it. And so I had to begin to develop healthy habits so that I could counteract the bad ones and know when the bad ones started to seep in. I haven't mastered it. Like, it's still, I got issues with food and sugar and all the things, but I've mastered the breathing part, right? Like, I can function. I have an amazing job and career. Again, things you're not supposed to have with the conditions that I have. And so I have these lists. And I know, like check marks in my brain, I know that if my bills are not paid on time on a regular basis, like I might miss one, like just because it's enough of them to miss, right? But when consistently I'm not paying all of the bills on time, that's a sign for me, because I've built this habit of paying them on time. And so I can't allow myself to not pay them on time because I know just that one thing could be the beginning of another spiral. And so I have to build these healthy habits so that I can notice when things aren't right. Another one for me is shaving. I'm not big on shaving, but I shave because it's a measure of, we're just going to get all personal.
Oh, yeah.
It's a measure of how often I'm taking care of myself. So even though it's not, I mean, I don't care if I do, if I don't, but I know that when I don't, it's a part of the spiral.
See, but at least you see that.
Yeah.
And for me, being a man, I'm a hairy dude. I got a beard, I got hair. When I don't do anything, like I start to look like a mountain man, and I'm like, okay, well, that means I'm actually, believe it or not, I'm going through that slope. I'm falling down, right? And it took me a while, and I mean a long while, for me to pick up on that. When I start doing, like, for example, something small. When I know I'm going through my spell, this is one of my signs. When I allow my nails to get long, like my nails start to get long, I'm not caring. I'm not doing that personal care. I'm letting it slide, right? Because it's getting long. I'm not talking about like, go to cosmetic long, but it's getting long enough that I'm scratching my ears, or, you know what I mean? Like, wow, I'm sharp, like I say that to say, with men, we do things differently when we are diagnosed with this specific, or even whether it be personality disorder, schizophrenia, or even the simple as depression. We deal with things a little differently. And these signs are often triggered by other things. I know for me, what works on my confidence and my ability to function is similar to what you're talking about not paying the bills. I stopped paying this, or I thought I paid it and I went to something else, or I just stop all entirely, like just don't do anything, and I'm getting notices like, and I just like, or I'm not paying attention anymore, or attentiveness to my youths, or even my job. Like, I'm calling it out, I'm not eating breakfast, right? I'm not doing these things, these things that I usually would do on a regular, but I'm not doing it anymore. So now it's like, I'm just coasting, right? Until you hit that wall. When you hit that wall, it's like, oh, you hit the wall. It's not a reality check. It's more or less like, oh, I'm already here already. Like I'm here already.
Right.
That kind of a feeling.
Like smacks you in the face.
Oh my gosh, you know what I mean? And you become more irritable. Your moods becomes darker. It becomes more agitated easily. Things you would normally just, whatever. Now it's like, it's an issue. It's a huge issue. Now it becomes a barrier that you will put for yourself to stop doing something else. Like you will actually put that Indian way and say, I can't get around it. But you put it there, but you want to make that part. You would just be like, well, yeah, it's there. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, that's not exactly kosher. How would you say when someone who is not diagnosed with depression or personality disorder or anything of that nature can see these habits as being habits that would hurt your everyday, not have you to function, not have you to connect?
So I live a healthy lifestyle, right? Even though I have these illnesses, most people just have a healthy life. And so it's similar because we both are presenting ourselves to the world the same way, right? But I just have some deeper stuff going on here. And so what happens is when you like the bills and habits around taking care of like our hygiene and basic stuff. A healthy person, their low may be here, right? That's really low for them, but they won't be suicidal, or, they won't quit their job. They'll just be in a funk. Whereas for me, my low will take me all the way down here. Like you can't even see where I'm
Yeah,
at.
yeah, yeah.
Right. And so that's the difference. Right. We still have to do the things like once I'm healthy, I can do the same things that, this person does to stay healthy. But I know that once I dip, my dip is not stopping here where theirs would stop. It's going all the way down here. And so I think that probably is the biggest misconception, is that people assume because you have a mental illness or mental health conditions that your life is drastically different in all of these ways.
Yes.
And it's not. It's similar. It's just like if someone else doesn't pay their bills, their stuff gonna get cut off. They might get evicted, kicked out, whatever, right? Car might be repossessed, but they don't have a mental illness. And so for them, their low is here. They're still able to function. Mine, if those things happen, it'd be that. Plus, I am violent. Plus, I have like cut off all of my friends and family. Plus, I have quit my job. Plus, I have so it's more than just that level. Does that make sense?
No, that makes ultimate sense. I mean, the kind of work that we do, the people that we interact, it makes absolute sense, because we tend to put unrealistic expectation on ourselves, much less, you watch others and you see the habits of things they do. You're hungry, but you got beer. You have a ton of food, but you have nothing to drink. They would look at this as being, well, that's crazy. I would never. But the thing is, when you're in a manic state of mind, everything seems good to you. Everything seems like it's normal for you to do this. Jumping off a roof and think you can fly in that manic state, it was a good idea. Matter of fact, it was so well thought, right? At least you believe that to be. And a lot of us will say, oh, you had to be crazy to think that. Do we? Not really. I mean, really, it's not. Because how many of us have took the chance and said, I'm going to date this person, even though I know full well they are not compatible to me? How many of us do this on a daily basis, right? We go to the club, right? We meet each other, right? We might get intimate. We might right away. Sometimes we wait a little bit, we get drunk or whatever. We don't know what we're dealing with. We would do this all the time, but that's not considered manic. But if I decide in my manic state, in the true definition, go out there and just meet someone randomly and they say, you know what, let's go ahead and wife up and husband up and we're going to do this here. We're going to go with it. That's considered manic. But yet,
it only goes so far though, right?
Yeah.
So like that first person you described will, hit the brakes when it gets to a certain level.
Yeah.
That manic person, they're going to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. But they're not even driving though. They're not. The wheel, right. The person, there's no one driving. They're on the passenger side, autopilot, right? Just go ahead. So I get that. I do get that. But what I'm bothered by is the double standard of it, right? It's a double standard because personality disorder, when you are a youth, they don't call it personality disorder. It's titled something else, right? What is it called? Emotional disturbance. You are considered emotional disturbed. When you get older, now it's personality disorder, and they know where it stems from. But as a child, they would say things like, "We don't want to label you" or whatever. And it's like, but something you could have nipped in the butt or helped from afar,
and given somebody the tools that they need.
Yes,
in order to live a healthy life.
If that was the case, right? If that was the case, and so it's so confusing because you think of someone. Let's go a little smaller. You say someone who has general anxiety. So it's not severe, but at the same time, it's not light, but it's just general, right? And that can break down in many different categories with personality disorder because it's a combination of things. And most of us, when we hear that, we're like, man, you don't got that going on. But the thing is, if you have that going on, you have some things that indicate this, right? And we think of personality disorder or generalized anxiety as, oh, you just want to be labeled, or you just want some money, or you just antisocial. But we use this word very harshly, antisocial. But a person who's truly antisocial, and I'm gonna say the textbook definition is that I do wrong and bad and have no remorse whatsoever. That's antisocial. Antisocial does not have empathy whatsoever, right? Whatsoever. They don't think anything wrong. Me busting in your face or cussing you out or whatever the case is, and then we're confused that we're bipolar. Like, no, that's not bipolar. that is not bipolar. So we confuse the diagnosis because of certain mimicking factors. But a person who's truly antisocial don't have the ability truly in the mind or even in emotions to feel anything for you. Like, you did something, even if you didn't do anything and they feel irritated and they did something, it's not like, well, you made me mad. No, I generally don't care what you feel. I just feel to do it and I just did it. And that was it. It doesn't even matter how you feel about it. Because again, I have a detachment about what that is. That's antisocial. It's not that they don't care. They're incapable of doing that. They're incapable of doing
Which
that.
is totally different than wanting to stay home and not going to a party.
There you go. That's usually
those are two different
things. So a person who's shy or withdrawn or have a general anxiety about being around people because of certain traumas or certain attributes that contribute to that trauma, but it's not antisocial. So again, we develop habits based off our own definition of what these things are, and then we live by it. It's like when I was a kid, I used to love read horoscopes. I don't know why I did. I just like read horoscopes. I just find it fascinating until one day I realized how much damage that can cause, right? How much damage that can cause.
Like, I can only be these 5 adjectives. I can only be energetic, outgoing, compassionate,
yes,
and whatever,
And then they come to find out that you are nowhere near those things. And then it's like, what is that? What is that, right? Like, how come I'm not compassionate, right? How come I'm not compassionate? You start to, really believe that something is wrong with you. And it's not
right. And you have to only be in this narrow definition of self,
right.
Which is not true.
It is detrimental, right? It's detrimental. And I get it. We learn as we go. We learn as we go.
And so this is totally off topic, but I do believe that because there is reason to everything. There's nothing, for me, there is nothing that God has wasted.
Yes.
Right. And for me, to serve a God of order, people born on the same day, I would think, have similar tendencies. Life shapes us and we react to our surroundings. We have different genetics. But if all of the planets were in one place and Earth was in one place, tilted at a certain angle at a certain time, and all these folks were born on that, I do believe that there is some basic similarities. But when we get hyper focused on those things, and nothing surpasses God's will. Nothing surpasses the grace in Christ dying for my sins and all of those things. But I think people get it confused and twisted upon like what's more important. And what day you were born on is not more important.
I love it. They get, like I said, hyper focused on it, and then what's worse is that they get selective with it.
Right, like all Scorpios are not mean, evil jerks. They're not.
It's amazing how people, they focus on what they want and they say, "This is what I'm going to be." And you know how hard it is to pinpoint and hyper pinpoint exactly what you think you should be versus who you are.
You are.
That is a stressful and a lie at the same time. Stressful way to live. Live up to something that you're not.
And that creates anxiety.
There you go.
That creates stress.
See? And ultimately put you in a position that now you're fighting something that you created and that was naturally there.
And you try to contort and conform yourself into what some, random person making up stuff decided to say what is. So I'm with you.
But they take the truth and the lie and put it together, because we know there's no lie that can stand on its own. So they take a truth and a lie, the truth, and put the lie on top of it, and pretty much tell you that this is what it's going to be. This is who you are, and most people don't realize how much of a receiver they are, and they take on that persona and try their best to live according to that persona. At first, it's fun. Because you see what you want, you do what you want, right? You be what you say you want to be. However, that maintenance and doing such a thing becomes a problem, right? Because now we start to develop habits that is detrimental to us and damaging. This is why it's so important for us to be careful what we are watching, what we have our children watching, what we ourselves take in without keeping in mind it's not real, it's fictional, and at the same time, it can be damaging, right? It can be damaging, right? And triggering at that, depending on what we're dealing with. We must have an outlet. We must have a breather. We must have that meditation to decipher those things, because the mere fact that we poison ourselves slowly every day. I know this is going to seem like it's going to go far left, but the words we speak are considered spells, right? Spells, right? We manifest things into reality, right? So if I'm watching something called television, I'm television. That means I'm giving you what sense of warp or unwarp reality, and you start to take it in more and more. Guess what? You start to take on that persona. So if all you're watching is all drama, all death, and no content, guess what happened to your mentality? Your mentality feeds on that, right? And feeds it. I mean, when we was younger, yes, we had TV, but we also had playtime. We also had outside time, right? And despite the traumas and despite the things we endured, we wasn't as heavy with it, but we had other influences. But this generation we have right now has, round the clock influence. Radio,
Yeah.
TV, right?
Right. TV turned off at 11 o'clock. Like,
Remember the
you
static
wouldn't
music
watch
give? And then there's the rainbow color beeping sound. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, you hear it, boo, and that was it, right? you know damn well it was the next day because it was
Lights
just because
out.
the lights was out. Now you got endless potential to do more harm than good, because I don't know anybody who's going to be up 3 a.m. looking for health tips, unless that's what you do. Again, it's not a lot of us doing that, because if we up there,
It's not entertaining.
It's not because we don't make it fun, right? Eat your spinach, right, or do your exercise, right? Nobody want to hear that. But if I say, hey, drink up, feel good, live for today, right? Everybody would be on board. Everybody would, yeah, I'm going to do that. Hey, try this drink, right? We're going to take this. You're going to try this drink, and you would feel like cloud nine. And ever since this COVID thing, everything has been more hyper to either escape, release from reality, self-diagnose, right? Or take full advantage of your diagnosis or things that you're aware of, or whatever that mental health is, whatever the mental health issue is. Take full advantage of it to the point that it justifies you doing multiple wrongs, as if that was an excuse ever.
Right. And that's, people don't hear often enough that mental illness is not an excuse for bad behavior.
It isn't.
Right. It does not give you a free pass.
Nope.
Like, you are responsible for your actions, which is why it's so important to develop those good habits, so that when the darkness sets in, you know how to begin to dig yourself out. Like, I know I can dig myself out up to a certain point. I can't get below that point. Otherwise, there's no hope. I don't know what to do when it gets right. Like, I need to be back in inpatient where I'm not going again.
Right. There you go. We're not going again. We're not on this wood here. We're not going again. Yeah. We're not going to go through that.
It's just, and I I can laugh about it now. But I remember sitting there and looking around, and I was still suicidal. I didn't want to live. I'm like, if they let me out now, it's over.
Yeah, you're gone.
And yep. And then I'm looking at everybody that is in the same ward with me. And I'm like, these guys is crazy. I'm like, oh, wait. I am also locked in here.
Yeah.
Perhaps, like, that was my epiphany.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I am one of them. What I got to do? Like, that, it totally changed, like, accepting it.
Yeah.
Right. And knowing that I didn't just end up there. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't nobody else's fault. It wasn't. What do I have to do to not be here again?
So what gave that light, though? What gave you that light, though? Because, you was in that dark. So what was that light to say, oh, I'm here too?
It was like 2 + 2 is 4. So when I woke up, I woke up from a suicide attempt, and I did everything I could to not be here, Rah. And so when I woke up, I was like, God, this is not what I meant when I said keep me with you.
Mm-hmm.
But I accept your will. You are sovereign. And if this is where you want me to be, I'll stay. but you have to show me how to live because I don't want to. And so for years, I was living in a place of not wanting to live, but accepting the fact that I was here. It was my choice to be here. And so you mentioned like being a passenger seat. That's where front seat life came from. I'm the driver. Like I'm making the decisions. I have been given full control, full will, full responsibility for my choices and my decisions. And so between waking up and watching my fellow mental health condition folks struggle, I don't know how I got it, but my prayer was, listen, again, God, you have to show me how to live because I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
While I was there and inpatient, somehow I came across Matthew 5:16. Let your light so shine before men that they will see your good works, which honors your Father, which is in heaven. All I had to do was be the light. It doesn't matter how I feel. It doesn't matter what I want to do. It doesn't matter. All I have to do is be the light. So when I got to the place of not knowing what to do next, which like, okay, I don't want to breathe. What am I supposed to do? Be the light. Right. Oh my gosh, I just got kicked out of my house. I don't have a place to stay. What am I supposed to do? Be the light. Like that was the answer for years, like literally years, just be the light. And so it was like 1 + 1 is 2, 2 + 2 is 4. And that's how I see my conditions too. Like not paying my bills plus not washing the dishes equals a recipe for disaster. Or not getting out the bed, not being social equals, and then that's how I have to do it.
Wow. You give me a flashback. That speaks volume because when I found my calling, it wasn't out in the world. I was locked up. I was, sitting in a jail cell thinking that somehow, well, of course I'm going to say I don't belong there. I don't belong here, but I'm sitting here full of rage. I mean, just raging out. And I couldn't see myself in any wrong. Even though in this time, at this point in time, I was there and I shouldn't have been there, but I was there and I sitting there and for a month alone, all I did was be angry. I was just angry and couldn't think about why I'm there. I'm just there, right? I'm just there. And now, mind you, I was sitting in there for 6 months before I realized, I was the answer to a lot of things, but I couldn't see past that. I couldn't see past my own anger, right? I was, sometimes I would curse God, I would curse him like, how you saving me? I was angry, man. I was so angry. And I had people that was lifers, they was going upstate and some was there because they was on drugs a lot, and so to them, this is like a second home, they was here like, yeah, I'm going to be here, and I'm sitting here like, why? Like I wanted to get away from these things, but yet I seem to go right to it, right? I'm just drawn to it. And it's then when I started to realize that the habits and the things I have developed, not because of someone else, or I couldn't even fully blame the traumas because I'm developing these habits. I will fight if the wind changed, right? My mood changed just because the sun didn't stay up too long. And of course the depression didn't help, so here it is. I went through a whole month of just not wanting to do anything. I didn't want to shave. I didn't want to eat too much of anything. And at first they thought it was suicidal, but it was, I can't say that I was. I can say that I was down because of course I'm not in the place that I want to be. But at the same time, it's like, how you go through a cleanse? I mean, just things just holding on as much as they can. I was just letting them, letting them go, letting them fall where they fall. And I was thinking about how I got here. Despite the situation, how I got here, who I'm amongst. I'm amongst people, whether they're bad or good, not supposed to be there, whatever the case may be, they was in pain. They was in pain and they was just as angry or confused. And I found myself reasoning and talking and assisting and helping them with emotional intelligence, even before I even knew what this word was and what things I was doing. But I was there doing this thing voluntarily while I was inside. And it woke me up to a lot of things about myself. So within that last month, after the 6 months I was there, I'm sitting there, I started writing, I started drawing again, I started talking to the Most High more, rebuilding that relationship, right? So when I come to realize that it was a reason why I couldn't hold a relationship, I couldn't communicate with other people, even though I had the skills to do it. These are the reasons why I couldn't do these things. I was so busy saying that, oh no, that's y'all just crazy, y'all angry all the time. I was the most angriest. I was I'm holding so much, right? And I heard that be the beacon. I heard that before, and I saw that. I could truly say I heard and saw that before, but I didn't pay attention to it because I thought it was just something to say, hey, be the one. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Right? Be the one. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm not worthy of that, because I was looking at the things I've gone through, the things I've done as such a scarring that there's no way no one would want to hear me. They don't want to talk to me. Who am I? I don't want to do this. I'm thinking about Jeremiah, thinking about when he was supposed to go talk to the kings, and he was like, who am I to talk to them? Right? I know you're all powerful, but who am I? I can't go talk. So I started thinking about those things, and I was like, my confidence, man, was up and down. You know what I mean? Like I was unsure, but yet if I was put in a position, I would do it out of survival versus just spontaneous or naturally doing it. So I had to learn that I shouldn't have to wait to be put on the spot or be put in the corner to show my claws. This is something that should be lived, everyday practice every day, to do this every day. So when I started advocating and speaking to fathers and speaking about the things that I feel that is familiar or common amongst us as men, especially as Black men, what we do and how we do things. And it's like, I've been there before, or I've seen this, or recognize this, because I don't want them to feel that, well, how many things have you been through? How many lifetimes have you gone through, right? Right here and right now, this is what I've gone through. This is what I experienced or what I witnessed. I don't know. I still don't know everything. And even the stuff I'm learning as I go still contributes to what I am trying to do and what I am doing versus just, coasting. So when I mentioned that the driver's seat, because I had many family members and friends who had died by suicide or been in predicaments where they felt that way. And so I had to step back and not make it be, well, what about me kind of thing? Like, what, do I feel that way? Now I'm self-diagnosing, I'm looking for reasons. There goes a horoscope, right? I'm doing a horoscope again, right? Oh, well, it said if I breathe wrong, right, I'm going to most likely think this way. And now you start to think it, you start to manifest it, right? So I started comparing that to our everyday living. You're with your significant other, or you're building a relationship, and the minute someone tells you this is how it's supposed to be, you start to look for that. Or what they wouldn't do, you start to look for it. You start to be it. And next thing you know it, those habits, again, spoils what was once good. Now is related to bad. So for me, it was change. Change for me was considered a most wickedest thing because I associated it with the trauma. I associated it only with the things that I was going through. So when it came to change, listen, man, I was the most irritable and miserable man you could ever see, because I did not like it at all, because of this, I always associated with the pain and turmoils I went through. And I blamed it, well, if I just stay the same, it's unrealistic. I cannot stay the same, right? So, but you couldn't tell me that, because that was my reality. So now what I do is I help my brothers and sisters to see an alternate reality to what they are thinking. That's small. Because I know how me and change don't get along, I try my best to implement it in small dosage and manageable, right? Because we know when we come to change and it's too much, listen, we start to hurt ourselves. Whether we realize it or not, we start to hurt ourselves. And that affects our relationship, our children, it affects ourselves definitely. So all those things are a factor. So I didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't want to hurt, and I didn't want to use that excuse, like I said, to put things in front of us. Now we can't get by it because we assume it's too much. We can't do it. We put this in there. And at one moment in time, I used to say that was my defense, but that wasn't a defense. That was a prohibitor. And I confused it with what protect me as a child, and as an adult, it won't protect me. Right? What would I do? Or simply destroy it because it no longer has a use.
Wow, this is good. Listen, you have to catch part 2 of this conversation on Fatha Torch podcast. Rah and I continue to go in, and what you just heard is only the beginning. So head over to Fatha Torch right here on the JazzCast Pros Network. Wherever you're listening to Healthy Illness Podcast, you can find Fatha Torch as well. So tune in to part 2, like, share, subscribe. We appreciate you listening in and joining us on, all things relationship, all things, forgiveness. This is good. This is good. So head over to Fatha Torch Podcast to catch the next piece of this conversation. Until the next time, be the light.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Rah. Yes, I am the host of Fatha Torch. I would like to take this time to invite you in my discussions on very, very important topics of being a Black and brown father in today's society. Being a parent, the other parent, we face trials and tribulations too. We have worries, we have feelings. Here at Fatha Torch, we promote the advocacy of being the dad you wish you had. Join me at fathatorch.com